intro and
Okay,
It's
yeah,
like they
okay. I
didn't,
just started
they
streaming,
They
so
didn't look
we're doing it
forward to
live.
time and LIDAR coming.
Fuck it, we're doing it live.
We're doing it live.
Welcome back to Cruzin with Steak.
Get it, James? Do the introduction.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man, we're back with Jeffrey Boyd Jr. for an Independent Research Society. We're going live tonight. We're gonna be
Doing
talking
it
about
live.
some.
Cruzin with Steak.
Yeah.
And Matt James is here with us.
Oh yeah.
And
I don't know if we can handle two
Holiday,
Jameses.
Deanna, Helbig,
Too many Jameses.
we've got lots of listeners, and now they're sharing it around. And,
No, that's great. I welcome any new listener for sure. Yeah, you can check us out on iTunes. You know, any of your subscriber things, you can find us podcast wise.
RSS feed, yeah. And,
But
Matt James, I just saw.
We're not streaming yet.
Hey, there's his face. Hey, Matt, what's up, brother? We got another Independent Research Society guy in here.
Nice.
And I got the stream over here running, so I'll see you guys in the stream.
I'm totally streaming.
I made the stream, so no matter what medium we're on, AM, FM, Ground Zero, I can still talk to the Research Society, you know,
No, it's saying it's
separately
offline.
with them, and I could talk to them. Hey, Christine Holiday just popped in. Hey, it's a little different from Skype, man, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Hold up. I'm not seeing the YouTube stream.
Yeah, it's not. It says it's streaming on OBS, but it's not actually streaming.
We're still a little
You have
early.
to start it. You have to make sure the key's the same.
Let some people roll in. And Christine and them, and I've got my phone right here too. So if we can get
I got my phone.
A single YouTube, if we can just get wherever it's streaming at, wherever we can get one stream, I can just share it over to the different groups. Because all the that thing like went crazy today, and even your video you made from work, that went across Twitter and a few things. So there's so many different groups watching, and with that, and now post making that. I mean, the most I'd ever had was like, even on a video, was like 10 shares or 12 shares on shows. And man, that written piece.
All right, we're good. We're live now.
Implications of change in history, man. 166 shares in like 72 hours, and it's still going.
Well, we're back. Yeah. Cruising with Steak.
That's pretty shitty. We need more.
Now we're live streaming. Welcome, everyone. We're here with Jeffrey Boyd Jr. from the Independent Research Society. Gonna do show number 2, man.
Yeah. Are we streaming off Cthulhu?
No. This is on my
Grimm's
channel, so I'll drop the link in the Zoom chat here in 1 second.
Yeah, we're just gonna get the word out here that we're hanging out, so people.
I'm just looking over here where to share it to. Once we share it to our wall, the members will share it.
Here, James, can you drop it in the Zoom chat?
Like half of society is the administrator of their own group. So, we can cover a network, but I just think you guys, it's a lot more fun. And, I'm a very empathic person, and I think you guys deserve to be where some other people, there's Christine. I just think, other people had the exclusive on all my discoveries. I said, I'll do it on your show. But now, I'm like, hey, I found somebody I like hanging out with. And when I come up with some crazy stuff, which this did rewrite history, and all it takes is discovering it and then enough people knowing about it. And that's definitely happened. Do we know where the source is of the live stream yet?
Let's see.
You got it, James?
Yeah.
So we on Grimm's channel?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Sorry. Yeah, it's in the chat, right?
Yeah, isn't that good? Like a talk.
I just started hearing this.
I don't think that was it.
That might have been. Oh, Cruzin mistake. Talking with Jeffrey Boyd. Okay, it looks like there we go. Turn the volume down on it. All right. And here you go, Christine, Matt.
Oh, right on. Okay. Let's see.
Live now.
I don't know. I don't have.
What are you struggling with?
It's James.
Life.
Technology.
Struggling with life, dude.
Technology in general.
No, we're live. All right. It's all right. Okay.
Okay, we're right.
All right, guys.
I've had enough.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Welcome back. We're doing it live. Fuck it. Yeah, Cruzin Mistake, man. We're hanging out with Jeffrey Boyd Jr. from the Independent Research Society. Here to talk about whatever we want because it's our show and it's Cruzin Mistake. Yeah. So, Jeffrey, welcome back. Show number 2, man.
Deuces.
Yes. Yeah, man. We had a lot of fun last time. Stir the world up a little bit. Everything calmed down, and now we're on the better.
Say the least.
Yeah.
Every now and then you gotta stir the pot.
Hey, man. Yeah.
Sometimes other people stir the pot. They just don't like what comes out in the end. But
yeah,
everything will set itself right as long as you keep your karma correct.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you do you, and everyone else, whatever. I mean,
do what
you can't control the world, dude. Yeah.
It'll all work out for the good, even if you're trying to do something bad. And it is what it is. But yeah, now we are okay. Now we're on the Independent Research Society page, live, and we got the live chat going.
Yeah.
Let's see. There we go. There's everybody. All right, we got everybody on Grimm's channel.
Yeah, if you want to go and chat on the YouTube link, and then we'll all hang out there, and we can. Yeah, everyone can talk and hang out, and I'll try to
really crazy stuff.
I'll try to keep up and read and try to answer some questions if people got them. Maybe we can all kind of do that. But
and did you have a phone number for call-ins? Because I mean, I don't care about Q&A. There's always people Q&A, especially about LIDAR and how it works. Because a lot of times people don't understand what they're looking at and how a satellite can see underground. But I literally have the schematics of the LIDAR, so it can even give you guys an idea of how it works. And it's one of the things the government, and I don't think they had foresight. There's just too many variables to take into effect when you're doing things. That's why that's one of the theories I have about the spraying or whatever the hell they're doing to cover up things. But I've even noticed a little truth embargo on trying to get LIDAR images of North America, especially certain locations like out west and up near Wright Pat, where you're close to where you're at.
Oh yeah, down in Dayton, man. Yeah.
And I think
that's an interesting area. It's got a lot of history for sure.
Yeah,
that's where all the Roswell stuff ended up.
One might be right here at Barksdale Air Force Base.
That's the OG Area 51 over there. Right?
Oh yeah, dude. That's where they brought. Yeah, like you said, they brought all the Area 51 wreckage and all that stuff. And
did Jerry or somebody have a call-in, a regular phone call-in number, or is it just a Zoom call-in? Was it 33666-3311?
Yeah, that's our link to the room.
Yeah, but he's got to put it in waiting room mode first.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
I have intermission music if you need it.
Excellent.
I got some too. Let's roll.
Yeah, dude.
Watch them flee. Watch them flee. And we do it like this.
Nah, man. Yeah, we're glad to have you back, man. Have some fun, hang out, just check out some stuff you got, man. So
now we got
LIDAR, man. How's the LIDAR work?
To let some people roll in. We're a little bit early, but they see it up there now. But
for the newbies out there, like LIDAR, what's LIDAR, man?
LIDAR means light detection and ranging. I'm gonna let you see my desktop real quick so
All
you
right.
can see what, and yeah, and everybody who's watching it, this is the difference. And there's Guatemala, there's the metropolitan area, and we're about to find these all over the planet. That is literally a city like we have now, you know, and I've been showing you guys like all week that everywhere I've done LIDAR, it shows that what's on, just like Einstein said, the unseen is greater than the seen. And like at Chichen Itza, look at, or have you seen the movie Fountain? You always
No.
have it with Hugh Jackman, and they talk about the Aztecs and the Mayan, and they were trying to find this pyramid over there. But the symbol of the tree and the first father and the actual religion, you got to understand, you know, this just a little base you need to know before you see the image. And they always have the symbol of the tree of life, and that it's hidden. But the base of what the PhDs call their religion and mythology, which we prove over and over again, the mythology,
Heliocentrism.
it's history. And like the tree of life and the tree of knowledge, but you can see that what's under the structure has to go back to the Mesolithic era. Otherwise, they were scuba diving miles deep and building stairs at the same time and leaving gifts and things way deep underground. Well, that's just the truth. I mean, and here, and looking from space, we used to have what's called 15M, and that's what we had, 15-meter deep.
So they're using satellite. So they're using the LIDAR. They're satellites that scan an area, basically.
Yeah, it means light detection and ranging, and they're sending, just like there's full spectrum cameras, they're sending signals down, and some signals, just like muon radiography, how cosmic rays are going through and hitting,
penetrate at different levels.
Yeah, like, different different signals, and different wavelengths go through different materials. And so you can see right here, it's got a infrared radiometer, and you can see the integrated LIDAR and X-ray and microwave. Okay. So they're sending multiple signals down, and you can change it to where you can put like ferro metals, wood, bone, so you can see those things underneath. And what's weird is when we look under these places like Angkor Wat, we talked about this before, it looks like a massive circuit board. It looks like technology.
Oh yeah.
And Angkor Wat is just this, when you look at the entire area, you know, it's like if you were on a football field, Angkor Wat's like between the 2 30-yard lines, but the entire football field is the entire structure. It looks like that thing you showed where that the temple was built like that motherboard.
Yeah, I remember that.
But we see that over and over, and that's what Angkor Wat is. And I'll even show you the layers, and it just shows you. And what we do is we look at different depths, and you'll begin to see, like, check this out. I mean, this is what you can see above ground. And if you look, just pretend Teotihuacan, which is about the same dimensions and about the same height, but it's built just like that, and it has its main temple, and then
it's got like a collider.
It's all built. It does.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and if you look in Egypt and everywhere, even in Egypt, it has the pyramid. But now, if you watch like Knowledge of the Forever Time or any of the Graham Hancock stuff, you can see that they have a major wide structure that's bigger than the pyramid is sitting on. So it's been built over and over time, but there was something there before the pyramids, and the builders of the pyramids were not Egyptian, not the Giza pyramids. We don't even know who they are. They were separated by thousands of years, and this truth embargo that for a long time was led by Zahi Hawass kept people from looking at these things. And like for, on Dino's show, on Paranormal Into the Night, on all those other shows we were talking about. We talked all year long and last year. I said when muon radiography and LIDAR come about, we're going to see a completely different planet. And it totally changes what
so
you're
with this LIDAR thing, so like do you like apply to get a scan of a certain area or something?
Well, there's different groups, and then you have what's called a wish list. Like even if you're at NASA, you have what's called a wish list, and you write on the list what you want with the coordinates of whatever area. And when they get around to it, because there's other people that are also doing imaging too, and so when they get around to it, they get to your image. And sometimes I'll have like the one I showed you of a general of the entire area of Angkor Wat, because you can't tell that. This will show you. There is the temple. Now look at these massive things that you see on circuit boards, and there's even a hole like you see. This is a hole in a different field, but it's surrounded by water, exactly the way the things are, the underground stuff that we're finding in Egypt. But you can see that this is what people are visiting right here. This is the only thing you can see. All of this is grass and water and trees. But when you look underground, it shows, and even these spots right here, a lot of times that's how you tell the difference between a man-made mound and.
What do you think all the individual like little squares are?
That's what I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Here at Poverty Point, Louisiana, the way they thought it was natural for a long time, but if you dig just a few feet deep, you find these circles that are about this big around. And what that was them carrying round pots of just like I said at the pyramids where they were pouring cement.
Right.
They were setting it down on the earth, and it causes a circle. And then they get some more and they set it down. You got one person bringing it, one person dumping it, and
it's like building a sandcastle.
Yes, but when you look under the smooth surface, you see these round circles all over it, and so that's how they tell whether it's man-made or not. And so that's what I think these dots, these dents and stuff are up here, was moving material around. But then the story of what this thing was is the guy said that he rebuilt what took him off to space or to another dimension or whatever. We don't know if he physically left or whatever, but he said,
Star worshippers, right?
That looks like a microchip.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's crazy.
This is the first thing I imaged right here. And now I'll show you. Take a look at those swirl things that look like a circuit board. Look at the imaging now.
Oh yeah, that's what it must have something to do with water.
Yeah, well, I mean, piezoelectricity.
Yeah.
You got, and just like.
Wait, what is that picture of?
This is Angkor Wat, same place. And it looks like Tron.
Yeah, but those are just corridors, right? Or what are we looking at?
No, this is underground.
I know.
If you're at Angkor Wat, you cross over here, and there's a wall around. The wall goes around here. This is all grass and things like that.
So these are underground structures.
Bushes. This is totally underground, just under grass. And same here. And so that's why the other picture, you can see those lines that I showed you. Like, what are these lines? Is it plumbing, or is it, I'm thinking more the long lines of quartz. But just think, you add weight on top of quartz, you get piezoelectricity. You add running water across quartz, you get piezoelectricity. You have both of them, then you're multiplying the effect, not just times two, but a multiple of it. But if you keep making a microchip bigger and bigger and bigger, Tesla knew this. That's why the towers, I think, are him remaking the technology of broadcasting electricity wirelessly. But if you keep making
that's not how that worked, but yeah.
If you keep making a microchip bigger and bigger and bigger, eventually just the static electricity in the air will run it. Now, what it does, we don't know. But this is not they didn't just make this and bury it totally for no reason, because before this was finished, all this stuff was buried, and then we have this line that runs across from here, and I'm like, is it power coming to or from? You know,
water.
There might be a mountain over here.
Yeah, the water.
It's water. I bet this is some kind of underground cooling or heating system.
Yeah, and you've got water running across it right here.
Well, no, the thing that's buried is
groundwater aren't running under it, and we'll look under it too.
What do you think? Like in this scan, what do you think they're searching for in that particular one, or is it just highlighting those areas?
Well, I mean, I don't think there was anyone that knew that it was there to that
those were
level.
there. Yeah.
You know, it's even this square right here. Just the inside of that is the temple. So even around here is grass. This stuff out here is almost in the woods. There's a jungle around there, and there's a square clearing. So almost all of the stuff that looks like electronics, except for in the middle, is just under dirt. It's just underground and was not talked about. And the only thing ever passed down was technology that he rebuilt. Like, this is what you see above ground right here. And this is radiography, where it tells even the density of things. But muon radiography, and they could do this, all you have to do is take those x-ray plates and put it at a lower point. You could even dig a hole and drop a sheet of them, down below the site, and you let cosmic rays that rain down all night hit the tiles at different directions. And then overnight you collect those, and it's a company in Japan. They take it back to the lab, and then they lay them out like a tile floor, and they have what's called a high-speed microscope, and it goes over and it reads it and it interprets it and says this was coming in from this angle at this speed, and the way that it hits the tile, it lets them know.
That's like those new scans they did on the pyramid. They found that new chamber because of all the rays coming through.
That's exactly what they used. And I said I thought they would find another. I'll show you the muon radiography of the pyramid and those chambers. But Zahi Hawass is like one of the establishment people. He's one of the main establishment people there is. But he, whenever they said, oh, we found they did the bent pyramid first, but whenever they did the other one, whenever they did Khufu's pyramid, which is not Khufu's pyramid, it's not even Egyptian, but whenever they did it, the first thing he did, like John McCain does, blurt out, hey, I've known about that chamber. I've known about that chamber for 25 years.
Trying to get ahead of it.
Look, you've known about that chamber for 25 years, and you let every school, every textbook, every diagram, every show be wrong, knowing that there wasn't an underground pyramid or an underground chamber, that they decided not to be the tomb, and so they made the queen's room, and then they made the king's, and that just doesn't make any sense. But now we know. I also have pictures of tunnels that lead in the same thing that I'm going to show you guys at Chichen Itza. It's the same way at all these locations, and it's
so this is just
like right here. This tunnel is the same way as Egypt, but it's full. It's starting to fill up full of sand, but it's got a big fence grate over it. I got a picture of Linda Howe with a mask over her face, looking down into it, and we got to say rest in peace to John Anthony West. That
I know. I just saw that today, dude.
Yeah, that's one of the people who. I mean, it's flattering.
Yeah,
big shoes to fill, but I'm coming from a different direction, not from the archaeology which I've been on the university side of things, but he came to it from a different direction, and he found out that the Sphinx was weathered, and he made the big discoveries there. But it's still, you should still see how hard it is for the truth to get out there. I did a test and I got a test done by somebody out there and showed, like we were talking about before, that the pyramids are made of concrete. And so every single one of them who were having a theory contest, and whoever went to the biggest Ivy League schools, right? And
that's no doubt about it. Yeah,
that's nonsense. That doesn't prove anything. But it's 10% sodium carbonate. Sodium bicarbonate is baking soda. It's 30% water, so almost half the pyramid's made of that. The rest of it's made of sand, and the sodium carbonate is the binding agent. It's the only way to stick sand back together. So those things have never moved an inch. But this same tunnel is also in Egypt, and they're all over the place. There's even a 3,000 room labyrinth we found with LIDAR, Carmen Bolter. You can see that on the pyramid codes. But like this location, which I haven't told people which location it is yet, this is a mountain right here.
Damn, yeah.
And you can't even tell the quarry. I mean, this is a mountain. And you've got to think mountains are anything 500 feet in elevation or over. And if this mountain's a few thousand feet tall, you could set that mountain on top of that ledge 5 or 6 times. I mean, this is big enough to hold multiple cities.
Yeah.
And this is just this square area right here. You see this part right here.
That little red part. Yeah.
Something you could navigate. This keeps on going, and we don't even know how far, but it looks like Hollow Earth Theory 2.
I was say these are like, so the red is like cavern, or the red and the yellow is cavernous, and
yes.
Oh man.
The red is just the part that
damn, we got some neighbors living underground, dude. I don't know.
Absolutely. And man, I'm telling you, look at the size of this mountain, how big mountains are. I mean, a city would be like this big. So you could set the entire
how many feet down do you think that is in that scan? Like to the bottom, like the third, third square.
If this is
okay, that's 500.
If this is 12, if this is, let's just say it's 2,000 feet.
Yeah, all right, then just
we're talking about 6 miles, and that's what that's what we have now is 6 km, 6 kilometers, or 4 miles. I think that's about 4 miles deep, because you see where the LIDAR starts ending, but it still has you still can see water and other voids under there. And in Antarctica, it just so happens that where they say the Nazi base is, that there is a cavern.
And everything leads to Antarctica, or starts in Antarctica.
Where they say the base is, there is a massive void there.
Yeah.
And what's caused all the share? I'll show you this too. This is a good view where you're seeing what's above ground and what it looks like below.
Yeah, there
ground.
we go. There you go, Jerry. Yeah,
So this kind of makes some sense of what you're looking at. There's the temple. If you're out here where the swirls are, and look how massive they are, you're just walking through the jungle. And the tourists come from here and they cross this bridge and they go into here. But this thing, you can see
it's a huge complex for sure.
Look at the different. I mean, look at that. It looks like the inside of a radio or the inside of a TV or a computer or something.
So when they were building this stuff, whatever, this was like a global project. Everyone kind of knew the same like idea on how to build shit.
Well, I think it was a global civilization. It's in our nature to cross the ocean, and I don't think there's a chance that anybody that had the ability to cross the ocean. But I think the more I look at this, everywhere, it looks more, instead of the movie Caveman, it looks more like Star Wars, like Coruscant. It looks like where the whole planet is covered. In
computer chips.
We are the Ewoks. That's how we were just portrayed as midget hedgehogs in the movie.
Yeah.
We are the Ewoks.
We're the Ewoks, and then there's some gnomes running around, I heard.
It's some gnomes, man.
Watch out for them gnomes, man. They'll get you.
Yeah.
But
oh man.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and show people what, you know, caused the I mean, it went viral this week. Like, I went looking to see what groups it was being shared to. But the story on ancient aliens that you hear over and over again is that during the equinox, and I've been here and found out that I actually had my real awakening of just actually even thinking that way during a very experimental time in my life, at the same exact place in Nassim Haramein, which is at the top of these stairs where the temple is. But during the equinox and the solstice, you see, because of these corners, you see a shadow. I have another picture that these corners cast, and it shows the serpent basically descending the stairs, they say. But it wasn't. It was descending the stairs into the underworld. And then on the solstice, it was ascending. It was coming out of the earth, out of the underworld, because the part under it is much, much bigger. And you got to remember, when they were watching this happen, they knew that that was under there. And so they weren't just looking at this, they saw the entire thing. They were watching the serpent go into the underground. And so this is what you get with muon radiography. When in radiography you get to look through, it shows cracks, it shows any density change. And so
this is a complete X-ray of it, basically.
There's really no way to hide. See, you can probably see a little density change where the rock's been broken or something right there. So it's very, very detailed. But even that, forgetting that it's a pyramid, looks like technology if you had never seen a pyramid before. And whenever we looked underground, we realized that this is what they saw. And if you look down, which coming from the ocean, coming from the Gulf of Mexico.
Wow, this is crazy, dude.
You see stairs that were built, which means this had to be around during the Mesolithic. That means 12,000 years ago, over 10,000 BC, when the water level was 400 feet lower. And this stem is that shaft that I showed you inside the pyramid. So their spiritual guide or their chief would go into the underworld and leave things. But the pyramid, now we know, was put there to cap off this. This is the structure, and this is the tree talked about in their religion, and this is the underworld that they talked about, and it's not mythology. But you can see inside here multiple places and rooms and things that they left, and stairs that obviously led out to somewhere before the water level rose 400 feet. But when you come in scuba diving, you'll go in here and there is pottery that's still closed, and little sculptures and gifts and sacrifices of animals, and, you know, bodies of chieftains or whatever. And it just,
because didn't they have those huge, like, I don't know if this was in this same area where there's like 3 different like round pools of water, and they would do these sacrifices, like
talking to Mayans.
Yeah,
I think that's Chichen Itza.
Yeah, this is Chichen Itza. This is right underneath.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. It must be the same area, because like it's just this massive thing. Just like if you look at like on the map, I know there was like 3 or 4 giant circle bodies of water, and it creates this huge pattern. Yeah, so at one point in time, this is a big deal.
Yeah,
it's a sacrificial pool
down here.
Exactly.
Either the pyramid is dated wrong, and it was there like in Egypt before the Mayans were there, or the Mayans had been there for 12,000 years.
Yeah.
The only other option is, if the date of the pyramid is right and it's only 1,000, 2,000 years old, well, this structure has been used for at least 12,000 years. And that is before what we call recorded history. And so everything we find, and now that we've hit that point you heard during the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. We've got to explore space. We've discovered everything on Earth. We have barely begun to peel this onion.
No, they want to get into space because we're the next layer to get covered up.
Yeah.
If we get in this, they probably do the slow drip of new technology coming out. They're going to try to get ahead of what we already have. It's like, everything they say, oh, we're 20 years ahead.
Well, think
so
about
the shit
this.
flying around, it's been there for 20, whatever, the last 10 years. So they're going to be like slowly coming out with that, because with all the leaks of everything, I mean, they're going to start being like, we have
leaks.
What leaks?
What do you mean? What leaks? The shit
said,
that's just fucking.
Think about what you just said. And
wait, I have a question. I have a question about this.
Yeah.
This image. Where did it come from? How was it made? Moreover, that it's dated with carbon dating tools, and those are only the units that those come up with are what's agreed upon.
Well,
right?
Carbon dating.
I know
dating is totally
it's bullshit. I know
it's totally off. It's like
I understand,
it's
but
like having a ruler and every inch is different.
I understand. That's what I just said.
In order for carbon-14 dating to work, we would have to know that for the past 60 or 6 billion years, that the sun gave off a steady amount of radiation the entire time, and that everything you test decayed at the same exact rate. And some things are 1 foot underground, some are on the surface, some were on the surface for 1,000 years, and then we're at 20,000 feet under pressure. There's no way there was any consistent rate of decay. Carbon-14 is just a way to say, you don't understand this. This is the date, and we're us, and you're you, and this is the date for things. But now think about how things are suppressed. What do you think they found here? Antarctica, all these places, because I guarantee you, if they're letting us see this now, they've seen it first. Their satellites going up so fast, but they're starting to let some of these out there, and they're slowly letting history change. But if no one pays attention, the story would never change, and the government or nobody would ever change. That's why I say, why even ask for disclosure? Just get confirmation.
You have to confirm it yourself.
I just want to say one more thing real quick. Look at how the green line across the top, it looks like a snake's head.
It totally does.
It's a claw across the top there, isn't it?
Before the water level got up, this thing was, look at the stairs.
Yeah.
Anything could have been done to shape this thing and change rooms. We have no idea what all is down here. And now this is all underwater and has entrances from the Gulf, and these cenotes are connected one to the other.
Isn't that a better question though? Where did all the water come from?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, remember me showing you Point Doom. Point Doom sits 6 miles off the coast at 2,000 feet deep, but it sits exactly where the North American ice cap ended. And 12,000 years ago is whenever they say we're coming out of the Ice Age. It was the melting of the North American ice cap that rose the water level during that.
Allegedly.
Yeah. But at the same time, we had and that might have been the change, the tilt of the earth, but we had a super fast freezing in Antarctica, which would be like, and I think it was an impact event that moved Antarctica and with the angle of the earth, it would put Antarctica about where Australia is, but it would also change North America from where it's sitting down, further down, and you have a complete earth change there. And when I showed you on Point Doom, you see Malibu Canyon was dug around it. So the North American ice cap, was this was built, and this is architecture, and there's a structure right here, and there are just columns lined up across here that are totally perpendicular. They all stand straight up. They're perfectly parallel. But this canyon right here was cut, and there's another one. This is where
is that off Malibu?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
There's supposed to be a tunnel there's a base underneath there. And in that base, allegedly, there's a tunnel that leads to Dulce that they move submarines through.
Yeah, exactly. And you see right here, this is where the Navy base is.
It looks like the ice wall in Antarctica, really.
That's what they're talking about. There it is. We found it.
See, right here,
from somewhere.
I think they decided to build this here because when the North American ice cap melted, you can see of the entire coast. This is where the major runoff was going.
But dude, that type of erosion takes thousands of years.
Yeah. But still, this was cut into the rock while it was above water. It had to.
Or they left the cling wrap on too long in the fridge.
Yeah, this had to be cut while it was above ground. But here, and there's actually a canyon here, and that bridge that I emailed you that just has no supports. Right. It's just perfect, like an interstate bridge, goes between here. So there is a canyon that goes here, and we've all been camping, and it starts raining, and what do? You dig
Never been camping.
Dig a ditch around your, wherever uphill is. Dig a small ditch around your tent, and the water will flow around your tent. And so there's a gorge that's cut right here, and this is where that bridge is. But here's where the North American ice cap ended, and here's where the most amount of water was flowing, and it dug deep. And these are deep, deep trenches into Malibu. Into the canyons.
What about the Grand Canyon?
Wow, that's a good question.
That I think that's also where the Colorado River either came from or became.
Well, yeah, it's in it.
But that's also in the same exact location. If you started going east from this point, you would run almost exactly into the Grand Canyon, but we don't know the exact shape of what the North American ice cap was. But it seems that at the same time, geologically, that Antarctica was going through this super fast freezing phase that the North American ice cap, that's why I think this was built long before it, during the Mesolithic. And I think this is the same. See, before the North American ice cap melted, you don't know that cave before the pyramid was there, it could have been used for 100 million years. We have no idea. Right. And so I think it was the melting of the pyramid, because scuba diving from the Gulf, you can go from the Gulf and find things down there that it would take them walking miles under there to get to. So we know that the water level rose, and this is sitting at 2,000 feet deep. And the water level rose, we know, 400 feet, 10,000 BC. But just before that, the end of the Ice Age, this North American ice cap, and it was over Alaska and all over there. The whole surface of the Earth changed. And you can look on Google Earth and see where the old shorelines of everything used to be. And if 70% of our population is still in coastal communities, just like in Egypt, their main city that were not Egyptians, the main city would have been where the Mediterranean is, because during this time, 12,000 years ago, there was no Mediterranean Ocean. It was more like a lock. So there was no space in between Africa and Europe. So you had a very different thing. And that would have been the lush lowlands next to a very small sea or Great Lake, basically. And now they're starting to pull the old civilization out of the water that's at the mouth of the Nile. And
the Nile River, yeah.
well, it's just like today. If the water level rose 400 feet, 70%, 80% of our population in our cities
wiped out.
well, yeah, it'd be underwater. And then you'd be left with things like this and like Point Doom. You'd have things like, the Superdome. It would definitely be underwater. We definitely see it covered by sediment and the Mississippi would widen and more sediment would come down and you would get something like Point Doom.
They just came out with that. They confirmed in a recent article that with the impact hypothesis, where it was actually a comet that hit the Laurentide ice sheet and melted all that shit.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm saying, and it would also knock it off on its tilt, and that exact what is it, set at 22 degrees and has a 4-degree wobble, that would put Antarctica where Australia is, and that would cause your instant freezing where you get 12,000 feet of ice almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
But that's also where you get this super fast melting of the North American ice cap that isn't like Antarctica. It covered the top quarter of our planet. And some of that's still there in places like Greenland and places where it's still not melting. And
that's where they all the frozen mammoths, all that shit. Remember all that stuff, dude?
Now they're finding even more of them in Antarctica. The core samples that have been done, there's bee pollen and all kinds of things that can't be found in.
Right, because when this thing hits, it just starts launching Earth everywhere. Yeah. The whole thing changes.
Well,
it's a game changer.
You're in Alaska, or you're in like Shetland, which is up by Norway or somewhere.
Yeah, we were talking to Micah Hanks and the 7 Ages team, and like they have a new research group about this too, and just the impact on the entire planet when this thing would have happened would have been just, people in Europe would be seeing fallout effects from this. It's like you're talking about, like,
and that's
shit
when
getting
all the flood
atmosphere.
myths, all the flood myths popped up too.
Flood myths,
all the religions.
Yeah,
like it's a worldwide event. Like every religion
if you think about
has a flood
myth. The flood myth, you've got, like I was saying about the concentration, just by our nature being coastal, you have 2 or 3 different variables right there that would have covered. So to 70% of the world, it would be a global flood event.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, if you think about it, it can't be. Now, do you remember Nimrod, the Tower of Babel?
Okay.
If you look back and you read, and I always go back and find the original text and don't believe anything anybody says. I go back and I learn a little bit about the language and learn how to actually literally translate it myself and look at what the things really say and talk to people like Farouk Ali that speak Urdu and Arabic and know things about Aramaic, and I look at everything, even the Quran. But you start finding other information, and if Noah was, and you can say Gilgamesh or whatever, he's been Gilgamesh, it looks like a few stories came from that, but if Noah's grandson, the baby that is on, or one of the kids that was on the ark, one of their kids was King Nimrod, which that's not his real name. Nimrod actually means to rebel. But where did Nimrod get all of these people to build the Tower of Babel, to split all the languages up? Where did it come from if Noah was his grandfather? It makes no sense on the timeline. So there had to be areas, just like with Adam and Eve. That's why you see this caravan going in and out of Antarctica since 2001 or 2002. I think they've been removing the pre-Adamites, and because it changes the truth. It changes, or it shows what the truth is, or gives us a lead toward there. But like these elongated skulls, the ones who are binding their heads, that's not the answer to all of them. That's a small percentage, but they were mimicking something. But I've examined the sutures and things like cranial. The first thing you look at, cranial volume. If you take any skull and you want to know if it's human, measure the cranial volume. Take sand, fill up the skull, then fill up another human adult skull next to it. No matter how deformed the head ever gets, even if you squeezed it and made it 10 feet tall and only an inch around, it would never, ever change the cranial volume. So when you have one race and it's consistent that every one of them has 25% more cranial volume, you have a consistency of size, you have a consistency of cranial volume, and also on the backs of their heads, there is a V suture that comes up from behind the neck.
Yeah.
And it's shaped about like this and grew in, yeah. Yeah, grew into place.
I love it.
It grew into place, but it's it's like an elongated, like diamond shape that goes down like below the medulla oblongata. It goes up and meets in a point, and so you have that fixed joint like humans on the back of the skull. And there's another race where you find a whole bunch of elongated skulls in a different place, and their sutures go straight across, perpendicular across the top of the head. And we have a diamond shaped or a triangle shape right in the center where a baby's soft spot is on their head, and it radiates out. And then when they get older, then the sutures seal up and their head hardens. But you have a consistency of sutures that are definitely not human, and binding cannot change that. Binding cannot change cranial volume or any of that. And I think it's funny that recently Peru closed the doors to the Elongated Skull Museum. You can't view them.
Seems like they want to open the doors on the giant thing now.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Klaus Donna is a friend of mine, and we talked about this last time, him getting that heel bone from Father Crespi in Ecuador, and proved that that was a 7-meter race all over the planet. They weren't just giants of one size or
everywhere, all over.
But it just shows that the Mayan story is looking more right, that this is the beginning of the 6th age, the final age of creation, and that we've risen and fallen. You know, one age, 5,120.
Yeah, we're like
years.
6.0. Yeah.
Time 5 is 20 exactly 26,000 years, which is exactly what every other culture says. The procession of stars, the great year, but the 5,125 is us coming out of nature and us building civilizations. And then whenever we
got to get off planet, man. We got to get the fuck out.
I think it's already happened a few times. Cairo means city of Mars.
Hey, man, you can put a fucking car on a rocket right now and get the fuck out in space. I love it, dude.
They're BSing so much. I mean, if they think that like liquid oxygen and hydroxine rockets that actually poison us more.
Did you see Elon Musk today launch that Falcon 9?
It's on the page, yeah. And they're about to do the Falcon Heavy, but it went up and dropped something off in space, came back, landed, picked up another payload, took off again, came back, landed. Now we're talking about we can send people up, eject the pod, they're out there. But not only that, what if we had 100 of these rockets that are going up
up and down all day long?
Hey, in 1 week.
Well, I guess that's what I'm talking about, the slow drip coming up over the next whatever decade, 20 years of like, okay, now that tech that we've always had and heard of, the man-made shit, the black triangles, that stuff, that shit can go out in space I know Jerry's probably like, yeah, whatever, but like it could go out in space and they're gonna start mining fucking shit
They
in
already
space.
are.
Yeah, like
And
it's about money, dude. It's all about money. Like for us as humans.
NASA, it's just a TV show. There is absolutely nothing that the military doesn't do first before it gives it over to the Civil Astronaut Corps. I guarantee you.
What's the Pope got to say about this stuff? I don't know. I want to
talk to the Pope has he has a painting of Abraccio Cosmico, which means cosmic embrace for.
He owns the world, doesn't he? The Pope, right?
He's
got an embargo on the world.
Just everyone's souls. That's all.
Just everyone. Yeah.
Everybody from Gordy
who was baptized,
Kindred Corporation to the Pope are all saying the same thing. Get prepared because they're on the way here. And so we've got to create an artificial intelligence. And I'm about to be on the artificial intelligence panel on Watchers Talk Live on the 25th. And it's crazy. And speaking of Cthulhu, Gordy Rose says himself, well, they're not actually demons.
I've heard that.
They're actually more like Charles Fort's beings of old. These are high.
Oh, because there's a difference.
Yeah. Exactly.
These are more highly refined, and they put their pinkies up when they drink tea, right? Those kind of.
They're highly intelligent beings that we need to create artificial intelligence.
Oh fuck!
Talk to them on the same level, and what's
we're so screwed. We're so screwed. What do you think they are? Artificial intelligence. That's what it becomes. We create its big loop.
Yeah,
it comes back around again. Yeah.
Yep.
They keep saying things like, "Okay, we're getting resources now that we're using the D-Wave, the quantum D-Wave, adiabatic computer, and we've got 2 to the 5,000th power dimensions that we can pull resources from." But you just got to think about it for a second. Okay, you've got, and Gordy Rose uses this as an example, but people never give any thought. I always tell people, just take every fact and look one level deep into it, or think one level deep into it.
It's curiosity. I was talking the other night with a couple people.
He said his exact words, I can write a math problem down on this piece of paper that a computer will run on and on and on, our best one, and it'll just keep calculating. Like this, like if pi was endless, one of those problems. But we're using these now D-Wave computers and artificial intelligence, and we're using resources that said in the Quran that Dajjal, the Antichrist, would have, but that's another show. But now think about this. They open up a dimension, they're getting extra electricity, one, for the Hadron Collider, and they're pulling in energy from these dimensions, which it might just be coming straight from beings, like Anthony Patch says. But now say you're using a quantum computer, and since it operates at a quantum level, there's no more processing speed. There's no more how many operations per second or per millisecond. Now you have how many millions of operations per no time. It's irrelevant now. But what they're doing is, when they open up another dimension, they're passing these problems that no computer on Earth has ever been able to answer, and they're getting an answer back. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm just sitting in space, like some people say that I can float in space and take pictures. I'm sitting out in space, a dimension, a hole opens up, and a math problem flies through. And now,
didn't they say, like, I've heard some stuff about they're
getting answers back.
Yeah, they're gonna be like 3 new numbers or some shit. Like
they're getting answers.
Nassim Harriman talks about it with the pyramid stuff, like over in Egypt
with the tetrahedrons.
Yeah, there's like and he's talking about there with God, it's really, you got to look up Nassim Harriman. The dude is amazing. But,
yeah.
But
ever since the Rogue Valley Physics Conference, I've learned.
Yeah, he's a physics guy.
About. And even down to what the spirit is, the quantum monotubule network. Somebody just posted that. That was the thing. You probably saw it. It's on the top of my wall right now. The thing right above what you posted earlier. And You know, you have that monotubule network, but that's what connects us to this subspace field or source. That's the spirit or the soul that is a network of nanotubes, and our brain is a biochemical electric adapter that allows us to navigate using this 3D vehicle to navigate this 3D, 4D realm. And that's the whole basis of the united field theory and what we were talking about before with morphic genetic resonance. And that's where all that information is stored still. And that's why people have memories we talked about before. You know, I don't think maybe that they're remembering so much of a past life, but like we talked about 98.95672. That's what the junk DNA they call it is.
Yeah.
But that frequency is allowing you to remember a memory that's stamped in the air, because we know that painful memories have a harder stamp in your brain. And thunderstorms are two of the only places that you can find dark matter and quantum particles, and naturally. And so our brains connect us to our spirit, which is that quantum. Just think of those nanotubes, a whole network
that
of
fire electrical connection.
Well, I mean, think about what people say a ghost looks like.
There you go.
If you had a whole bunch of strings of nanotubes, that's what it would look like. And with our brains connected to that, it runs our bodies through this 3D realm. And so much of this information, you notice you never have any government people talking about any of that stuff at all. But as we look back at the ancients, the Star of David, the Osirian, the pyramids in Egypt, everything shows you that this was a shared information. The floor of the Taj Mahal, the floor of the Taj Mahal, that just the temple at Dendera, at Abydos, and these symbols are everywhere. And Nassim Haramein talks a lot about that. And see, that's where I started studying archaeology. I started studying morphic resonance in physics first. Well, then I started looking for frequencies because I was trying to artificially connect to that field. Because if humans have their own frequency to their own field, because remember how I told you, if we crystallize something here and it takes an hour the first time, but it only takes 5 minutes the second time, when you try to crystallize it right then in Australia or on the moon, it'll crystallize in 5 minutes. That memory is stored in the air of that subspace field, and that's the symbol of Nassim Haramein's resonance project, is the 212 star tetrahedron. Well, that's just the shape of our subspace field. That's what you see snowflakes freeze to. And also, when you link protein strands together, GCAT, that's how you make a double helix. When you get proteins, amino acids linking together around that star tetrahedron field, you get a double helix, just like if you run electricity through water. The hydrogen and oxygen starts linking together, and I forgot the element it makes. But it's called heavy water. They use it to make nuclear weapons. You run electric charge through water, and the hydrogen and oxygen particles start lining up. And what they're doing is they're wrapping themselves around those unseen little tetrahedron pyramids. And it looks like the base of this whole technology that we're looking at on Earth is the united field theory. And I think people are running into dead ends because the physicists are only looking at physics. They don't take chemistry or biology into it. I think integration is the key. They're not putting archaeology or any information we can get from that, because the things that where I advanced in physics and others didn't, who are studying for years, is I took archaeology into account, and I looked in ancient codices and in temples and said, this whole room is tuned to 432 hertz.
The room, right? Yeah.
That's 108. That's exactly how many mala beads go around prayer beads. And then you cut that in half twice, and you got 37, which they call the fingerprint of the gods. And that number is what they say is our matrix, or it's the fingerprint of God, or a creation. And it's in everything. It's in every single thing you look at, and your being, and the field that's all around us. But just like FM waves, we can't detect them, but it's all around us. And I think that's the same way with the morphic genetic field. A bass, fish, and a deer, they have a different frequency. And so they tune to it. And that's where each animal is born with those instincts. It's not coming through the genes, because we found out in 2000 that we only had 20,000 genetic pairs, GCAT, Gattaca. We only found that we had enough information there to tell what we're made of. Like if we're building a house, it would only say bricks, gypsum, sheetrock, wood, metal. It doesn't say what we are, and that we're afraid of heights when we're born, or loud noises, things that in the past stamped on that field that said a loud noise might be danger to you, or a growling animal. We're naturally afraid of that. And
yeah, there's like the story, like if you had just say you like a squirrel or a chipmunk or something, you had, or even a mouse, any small rodent type, or you had it in a box its whole entire life, and you just and you took it out, like, and you had a bird fly over, it would immediately know, like, fuck, you're, like, danger,
We've done so many. Yeah. I mean, I've personally done so many tests on it just to prove it. And Dr. Emoto, and that when it gets into intentions and what we manifest. But if you start thinking about particles and energy, and I have a thing, you can just type in on the search thing, independent in research, and type plasma electric model, and it'll bring up my paper on the plasma electric model. I shortened it for Facebook.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, all I know is the electric universe.
They were all looking.
That's why I love
well, as time went by, just in what they call our 12,000 year history, and all the things that are much older that they try to fit inside there. Just like in Egypt, they tried to say that those pyramids are within the last 12,000 years ago. But see, Imhotep, he can't, it doesn't make any sense. And they try to make it that way. And they count on us playing Candy Crush with our head up our ass and say that way. No, they count on it. There's a reason why they call it programming. You can look it up. Google has a patent on brainwashing people, and exactly how to do it, and exactly how to have control of it. And they're trying to unify all of that stuff. But that's why I say we've got this massive duality, this polarity of humanity right now. And you see, and I hate to see it, you see the younger generation, they're more going toward letting it turn them off and become a sheep than the other way around. And so you have people who are using these technology and using these things to educate themselves and learn more about the world. And then you have the other half who are using technology to turn themselves off. There's a reason why they call it programming, and it works well. But the establishment never rests, and so neither do I. And we're starting to get somewhere. We really are.
Yeah, I mean, just by having conversations like this, I mean, it's a really good thing, because like we, you talk about like growing up and stuff. Like, when did you get into, like, when did you take that weird step of like curiosity? Like what was it that like grabbed your eye? Like, because most people might just walk right by it and not even look, but something made you turn your head or looked at a I don't know. Was it programmed? Was it imaging? Was it Hollywood? Was it that, or was it just like you walked by something like you saw a fucking ghost? Like,
or mind expanding experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember being a kid and just I mean, I was into art. Like my expansion was creativity, so maybe that was curiosity, and then it led down to different things, and then obviously life starts happening, and you start noticing things a little bit better. I don't know, maybe. But then are the other ones the NPCs, man? There's that whatever NLP, whatever you call them, Jerry. I don't remember what you call them.
Yeah,
just the
NLP.
sheep. NLP. This the sheep walking around. It's like weird. I don't understand. I mean, anybody I talk to, at least I don't know, if you get into conversations like this, and you want to say something, but you're just like, fuck, I don't know, should I say something? Like they might think, there's that weird stigma on things where like you're a fucking weirdo or something because you believe this or that. And I have I'm so glad to be aware to this a whole other world of what's most likely the right way, or is it? I mean, it has to be, because if see, that's how my brain works. I'm fucking crazy, but
no,
it has to be that, like, I don't know. I don't want to say we're right, but it has to be like we're on the right track or something. Because like, and the others aren't. I don't know. And maybe just by having conversations, it might be like, that is weird. Yeah, like we were talking when we were watching that video and we're just like, man, that's fucking crazy. Like, yeah, it turned out to be like some satellite thing, but anyway, like, it was curiosity. It got, we were just talking about it, and it just exploded.
The only thing, and they assume, because they only know of how they operate. They assume that I don't know anything about satellites, and I work with them all the time. There's what's called LISA, and it was actually 3 pyramids that set in a triangular formation, and it had one that set above it in a diamond, and one below it, like in a diamond formation. That was the original Lisa and Grace design. So I know what that is.
Yeah.
Measuring gravity. These 2 things I can show you. I saved it just for that. But the only pictures you see are drawings of this, and they don't look like the same thing. But on top of that, the only thing is that NASA sites are your only resource to find that information, and then you only find a drawing. But I have this thing on the wall right now because I've been asked the same question of everything from Ground Zero to every show. They've been asked me no matter what we're talking about, whether it be Ganong Padang and
where'd you get your image from? Yeah, where'd you get your image from?
Or they always ask me, what do you think about ET life, no matter what we're talking about. And I wrote this and put it on my wall just because it's something that I repeat, kind of like your frequently asked questions things on websites.
Yeah.
But it says, Jeff, on the question of life out in space, what's your take? I get asked all the time. My answer: our visual spectrum is very small. Our audible range is tiny. Dark matter is probably a whole bunch of different types of particles. 96.1% of the universe we can't see. Back up and look at the Earth. Even our ears, everything, even the atmospheric pressure and the tiny temperature range we can live in, we're the anomaly. We're literally built to live on a thin layer of the surface at a pretty narrow altitude. We've adjusted here, or we're designed to exist and experience only 3.9% of the universe. Most life, we can't even detect it. We are extremophiles living on the edge. Extremophiles, what you find by volcanic vents, living where they're not supposed to, or like in an acid pool. And this is what I told Clyde Lewis. It's like we're extremophiles.
Tardigrades.
Living on the edge of a boiling hot sulfur-filled water on the edge of a volcanic vent, looking across a sea of life for another volcanic vent, because surely that's the only place life can exist. because you need poisonous sulfur and 300-degree water to live. And that's this Goldilocks zone. There can't be any life in this salty 65-degree cold sea space, but there has to be another volcanic vent out there in the right location in the Goldilocks zone, another life form could live there, but nowhere else. Only on another volcanic vent. We're out there looking for water. We'll never know, because the other volcanic vents are so far, it would take another 100 lifetimes for us as extremophiles to make it to the next volcanic vent. And I think that's where we're living. And I think that's exactly what we are. We're looking for space. We're looking for water in a certain temperature. But I'll tell you, working as a chemical metallurgist, standing next to something that's 4,000 degrees, looking inside white hot, it's so hot of liquid that it's totally clear like water, and it's runnier than water. And standing there and knowing this thin sheet, with me with my Darth Vader mask, that gold Elvex mask, you've got 4,000 degree metal hit me in the face and roll off. And that material is a millimeter thin, it's just nothing. So what would it take if another, and Nassim Harman, I found out later, agrees with this too, if a life form had silica.
Yeah, the whole silica thing. Yeah,
it would. You could have life forms where
silicon-based technology and stuff.
They look back at us and go, we couldn't possibly live on that planet because 3,000 degrees Kelvin is cold, and we can't. That place is only 70 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no way life can possibly live there. And I think we live on the side of a bubble in an ocean full of life, and we're looking across out there and going, this is the only place we can live. When less than 4% of the universe is made up of atoms, as we know it, with the nucleus and electrons going around the outside. 96% of all other matter is the neutron and the proton, all in the center together, creating magnetic field around it that holds it together and pushes it apart, just like our atom with the spinning electrons. So, and out of that 3.9%, we can only see and hear out of the whole band a sliver. 5% or I don't even think it's that. I think it's closer to 1 or 2% of all light. And we can't detect anything else. And as in hearing, our hearing is only built to be able to hear inside this atmosphere. And I've been flying, with my dad, been in airplanes my whole life. You go up to 20 or 30,000 feet, you get to where you can't hear anything. We are only built to live in this atmosphere.
That thin veil.
Even on the thin veil, we're only built to live on the very bottom part of it.
Yeah,
and we can barely see anything. I mean,
it's a miracle, man. We're all miracles.
The only thing we can see is each other, and we can see the parts of planets that are made of atoms, and everything else we call dark matter, but that could be a million different types of things. What they're calling dark matter could be living things. And I know that, and with the Santilli telescope and Thunder Energies Corporation, it was built to see dark matter and detect dark matter galaxies. We have whole galaxies and stars and solar systems that are made of a different material that we can't even see. We can detect it now, and instead of a concave or convex lens, it's a concave lens. So you're spreading visual light and you're focusing the dark light. And now we're starting to point it at the planet and realize that there's things walking around us and flying around us we don't even know. And these worm things, you can look up ITE.
Yeah, you'll see those little
invisible terrestrial entities, and they seem to have a very big interest in military bases because they keep getting seen around those places. But all the books taken out of the Bible talk about the archons. They talk about them being unseen parasites. And now we're starting to see that stuff. And see, that's what I don't understand.
All that negative energy is feeding the moon, right? Right. I think that's what it was.
It could be. Hey, and I think I totally believe. And after watching Helio Viewer, I've seen things that are big enough that could swallow up the Earth like it's a snack. And
that whole well, if you watched what the hell is it? Damon T. Berry stuff, where the sun's like a black hole, basically. It's the reverse of a black hole. All that energy is being sucked in, and then that's where you would pass through into the next.
It's a white hole.
A white hole, yeah. It's a reverse. It like the sun. It's really just a portal, basically, because all the ancient drawings and figures and everything has to do with the sun. It's a sun god. It's all drawn to in a wine shaped glass, so like a tunnel into a portal around the sun. It's everywhere. It's all over the entire planet, and I find that fucking amazing. I mean.
And that's one of the last things Nassim Haramein said. And and anybody can go on right now, and we can even go right now and look on helioviewer.org. And we have SOHO, and we have the Solar Dynamics Observatory. That we've got this technology that our tax dollars have paid for, and it looks at the sun all the time. And so we have all these tools, and that's why recently on the Research Society, I don't know if you've seen, but I put up, people are like, like you ask, how do you get access to it? I put up access on the Independent Research Society. If you want to view Mars, you can click on the HiRISE orbiter and watch through it yourself.
Wow.
You can switch between fields. I put up the lunar orbiter. You can sign up, or you can just click on there, just like Helio Viewer, and you are looking through the lunar orbiter. I put up the Curiosity rover. You can look through it, and the Solar Dynamics Observatory. People wanted to know how I was seeing these things. Well, look around. They haven't looked. They haven't even taken the time to look for these tools. But when somebody says something being launched in space, well, I want to be able to use it. And once I learned that I could use one, I started showing people, but it's crazy the amount of people that don't want to. And sorry, I'm like,
if everyone just worked together, I mean, man, I don't know. Like you said, there's these walls, there's these tops, there's these academies and college and professors and there's all these walls around.
Classroom. I've been on both sides, and I've signed things that says, okay, you basically have unlimited funds. You're using our material, but whatever you discover is property of the university, and it doesn't go beyond that. It goes to advance our department, and then we can take it to alumni or whoever, or to the government, and get more funding for the university so we can do more research we can't talk about. So like you said earlier, me doing the research is just as important as you having a show to get it out there, because the only way to change history, if I find out something, it means nothing unless it's told, unless people find out. That's why I was so excited. We got 166 shares in 3 days.
Yeah.
And for one, I think it's because it's a familiar site. It's close to the United States. More people, lots of people have been to Cancun, and every hotel in Cancun gives you a little option to add, $149 a person to go on a tour of Chichen Itza. And a lot of them know it just because it's right here. But the story for years, the implication is that every story is wrong. And I don't ever go like the universities and like we said, the Ivy League contest. I don't ever go looking for information to prove a theory right. Never. I only test, and whatever the data says, I form a hypothesis from that. And then when more data is given, now that is called a theory. This whole thing is called scientific method, but it appears that the only people doing scientific method are the independents. And the other people have their set story and they have to prove it more right. And everything else is an out of place artifact. Well, everything I've showed you guys today is an out of place artifact, and only what's on the surface matters, and it fits in that story. And just don't look at the circuit board underneath. That's nothing. That was by accident. It was just, don't think about it. Turn your brain off, watch Family Guy, and forget about it. I love Family Guy. But yeah, I've seen all of them and it stays on constantly. But think about what a lot of those things say. Homer Simpson, over and over. It's cool to be dumb, and drink your beer. Like Brad Olson, I think, said, or Olaf Phillips, Joe Six-Pack. As long as he's got the San Francisco 49ers in a six-pack of beer every Sunday, he could give a shit less if the world ends on Monday.
Oh, I love it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just right now I'm just watching Altered Carbon on Netflix. Everyone check that out. That'll blow your fucking mind.
Hey, there's a pretty good story stuff coming up. I think this is the new platform right here. I really do. Like, the difference in technology change right here is we have either got some genius code writer that has made a jump from Skype, or we're using what the military has been for the past 10 years.
Zoom is primarily used for like business, like big business, businesses for conference calls and stuff.
Why is it so stable and Skype for the public is so shitty?
It's a good question, man. I mean, there is lag sometimes. It just depends on each person's connection. But
Farouk Ali, I've done the shows on the Quran and Angels in the Quran and stuff. Well, like, he's like this MIT guy, super smart. And he says he works in the financial security industry, but he's like, we're going to do a show, but we're not going to use any video because he already knows ahead of time. We won't have any hiccups. I can talk and there won't be any interruptions or any lags or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's just me and Jeff being on at the same time and you flipping between. We might lose. I can't even count how many times I've been dropped or something on a show from Skype or something like that. We tried to do one show called Portals of Knowing, and I think the original name was the Stargate Chronicles, and I sat there for 12 hours, like 3 Thursdays in a row, and because I won't update my computer, and the other half other people won't either, we had an expert panel. Well, you've got Ahmad Painter and Mark Eddy. They're pretty cool guys.
I've heard of Mark. I think.
Yeah, Mark's doing like Project Compass, and I did a show with him.
That's
called,
what I heard. Okay.
Open Canvas is the show. He used to run Revolution Radio.
That's what it's ringing a bell. Revolution.
That's where Radio. I did a couple shows with him on there. I'll share with you, and that was when I was first getting started, and Bruce Cunningham and Klaus Donham, like they're my mentors and my my friends now. It's a crazy thing. Like, like this, you need to check this out. The 9 Ways of Creation.
Oh, that looks great.
By Carl Johan Kaleman.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things in here like Well, everybody knows that's the caduceus, the two snakes. But even looking at each period of time during the 9 waves of creation, and each one, I forgot, is 20 times sooner than the last. Well, the last few waves that happened during this 2012 period.
Oh, so it's like a shorter
was
span.
like the birth of, well, on those years was like the birth of the internet.
Yeah.
You know, and then the next one was like some huge thing, because the last 3 waves of creation have been like recently, and but it shows the archetypes and all the beliefs of the Mayan that knew that the universe had arms, and each arm twisted, and we rose and went up and went above as the arm twisted and spiraling.
So then what about that line? That is that the line we live on in between?
Yeah.
Like in between the
the plane,
those waves?
The galactic plane.
Yes. Okay.
They knew, clocking it back all those thousands of years, they knew that on December 21st, 2012,
yeah,
undetectable, between, they even knew the hour and everything from this time to this time. Even
we all died in 2012.
Within a year.
Shout out to SMQ.
We went from going from looking up at the Milky Way to looking down. You can't tell we broke that plane. It would take years and years to be able to tell the difference, and they knew about it. And some of the things that are suppressed, but it's cool to think that now I've even changed this book.
Yeah.
You know, the snake and what it was doing going into the underworld. But if you read what he says, it almost predicts it, because it talks about the religion, and it shows the connection from the Assyrians, all the Anunnaki stuff, the Sumerian tablets connected to the Mayan, and what happened during the 5th wave, the 6th wave, the 7th wave. But then there's a picture. Let me see. I'll show you. This is something people need to see, because we're taught things that never change, like the cosmic microwave background radiation. We are taught that at one time, you know, the Big Bang, and then we had inflation. Nothing moves faster than the speed, or nothing moves faster than the speed of light, except everything.
Yeah, except everything.
At the beginning of the universe, everything moved much faster than the speed of light. And I'll show you this image. It gets taken, and people still think we live in an infinite universe, but it has this toral motion that was even talked about by Thoth. And you get to the edge of it, or to the center, which is called the axis mundi, that was also talked about by the ancients. It is going to, it'll be undetectable, but it will push you back away. You know, just us in the galaxy will push us back toward another way. That toral motion is fractal. And there's my bloody Klaus. Yeah, happy birthday. His birthday was this last week. Yeah, here's where I was like, what does it say? NASA sat?
Oh, yeah, that pic, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll show you the Antarctica one in a minute. It's really mind-blowing. I'll show you the cavern system we're looking at. But they count on most of us not ever looking at these things.
What do you think about, I saw some crop circle stuff. What do you think about those, like, legit ones, like the ones that are electrically bent and shit?
It's a big question mark.
Yeah.
She's a member of the society, the one that made the movies. It was even like the movie of the year at Contact in the Desert.
The one.
Patty Greer.
Patty Greer.
Patty Greer, yeah.
Yeah. She went out there for 11 seasons, and here's the Kurgan civilization. That was a civilization of giants, and that's I think I showed you before, that is a pre-Egyptian Ankh. And
yeah, okay.
And so I believe that if there is a because I've been asked if you had to guess, and I made you name somebody who built you know, different places around the earth show it, and even Russian culture still shows like on top, like in St. Petersburg, that gold statue that looks like the Statue of Liberty. That's actually a Kurgan woman giant holding a sword. And but we have the cosmic microwave background radiation, and it shows that we live in a very finite universe. And if you read the Emerald Tablets, he even says what the shape of the universe is. And we just don't know our history, and we're just now. Sorry, we got some of my crazy martial arts stuff still in here. It's been a crazy life. Wherever it leads, I'm going. Life can be a battle. JB Sports.
Ride the wave, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what we're doing here. That's all we wanted to do when we started this thing, is just, you know, just find interesting people to talk to, like, for sure, like you, and and just reach out, man, and provide a safe space for everyone out there.
Yeah, well, and people,
because Cruising Mistakes all about the safe spaces.
Safe space. Shout out to Felix Ortega. He says I don't talk about him, but I've talked about him every single show except the last one. Sorry, bro.
It just proves he never listens.
Exactly. What the fuck?
And there's a nice shot of the lunar impact probe right before it hit. But there seems to be something wrong with the pole of the moon. I don't know what it is. They have like a city up there with airplane hangars and skyscrapers.
Where did these pictures come from? How can we trust these pictures to be accurate?
That was from the Indian Space Agency. They actually...
it doesn't matter. If it comes from a space agency, you got to assume it's fake.
Oh, the picture is total BS. It's total BS. It has... You can see areas.
So what do we do? Okay, that's the big problem I have here now. So I'm watching this fucking rocket go out. Yeah, and then I'm watching a car flying around in space. What am I supposed to do? I'm thinking it's
a giant
amazing
commercial.
I don't care, but dude, it's fucking awesome.
It's not there.
What it's just in a room somewhere?
I'll tell you something. I just saw Wait. Let me talk. I just saw that Elon Musk tweeted that the rocket's already passed Mars and it's going into the asteroid belt that they just launched, right? Mars is fucking 50 million miles away.
Didn't they say it would take like 3 months to get there or something? Yeah, like
no, it can't be there right now.
Well, I'll tell you, there's NASA science, and just like us, there's private science. And yet this is how I believe that we're connected to the field that's around us. You know, more people need to, if more people,
that's why we can't leave the planet.
If more people realize what we are,
so if we awaken more, then we can leave the planet.
That's what I am means. And
so if we all think together, like what we're trying to do, so if we're all just trying to open up and think together on a more, the Curiosity, there you go, like the fucking rover, the Curiosity rover, you know, if we can expand everybody and, you know, and be open and work together, you probably could do anything we wanted. When that human spirit, you know, like I don't know.
And see,
it's wishful thinking on my end.
More of it's life, and like these things, a piece of software that's used, you can't buy it anywhere. It's only used to see through layers, kind of like LIDAR of microbiology. Well, we took images of things in space, and so it can see the skeletal structure inside. Now, these are the space station mirror.
What about that? Yeah, the RFI shit going through space, and then that's where they're finding the electrical connection to everything. I know a lot about
these are
that.
Plasma beings, and they're like barely made up of the atoms, the part that we can see. But this white
and we're made up of it too.
Inside. Well, we have a skeleton inside, but this plasma around the
outside.
Ether.
They
look almost more like fish. But most of what I see out there seems like life, and not what, like Stanton Friedman says, nuts and bolts craft. And
so we are the alien.
Yeah.
What's that about Stanton Friedman's nuts?
He's got some bolts for nuts.
They're stainless steel balls.
Stainless, yeah.
Yeah. They I'm trying to find I'm going to show you this cosmic microwave, but and there's pictures of all these things on the moon that were
Dude, the moon is
really
is an odd thing.
Yeah, it really is. And there are
did you get any good views of the super blue bald moon or whatever it was?
Oh yeah. We have a new member, a new connection. This I can't remember the 2 letters, INR Space Imaging or something. Yeah. And they zoom in on the moon and it's interactive. It's got a chat room. And if you see something moving or see an area you want it zoomed in, you just type in the chat, like it's broke up in a grid on the screen, and it just flashes up every now and then. Zoom 1 or zone 1, 2, 3, 4,
okay.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so whenever you type a certain area, it'll zoom in on that area for you. And I'm trying to find that cosmic microwave background radiation thing for you, because it's like something that you need to see, because we get what Trump was tweeting to his girlfriend 12 years ago or what the hell ever. But that's news. But when us finally finding out that we live in a finite universe, very fractal, super fractal, and CMBR.
Fractal universe. Yeah, that's
super fractal, and everything's got this toroidal or dual torus motion.
See, that's what I like, man. That's what I'm like. I don't know half this shit. I'm just a dude. I'm a bro. I'm a fucking weird dude that just into this shit. I just like talking to people, and then I'm just getting my brains blown out by all this stuff, dude. I love it.
Well, no, you're getting it.
Well, it's just information.
It takes enough people knowing about it.
Yeah.
That's how it becomes history. It doesn't matter what's written in the book.
Well, that's the beauty about podcasting, that and putting these things out there. They're just time capsules. They're fragments, like you said. There's fractal fragments in time, and if somebody else watches it, then that message is spread on and so forth. And then if we release a podcast on Cruzin with Steak,
and they'll tell 2 friends and so on.
Yeah, and you're listening to it at work, and then now then that person's got a little bit of knowledge. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, obviously we're not scientists. We're not putting out this amazing fucking show, but Jeffrey is. He's into this. He's doing the work, dude. And everyone needs to pay attention to the Independent Research Society, man. There's a lot of good stuff going on there. And that's why I like that's why I'm glad to have met you, man. I mean, we have some crazy, so far so good. We're having an awesome time, man. And like, it's just.
See, I'm looking at my own work and I find Nassim Haramein. Now that we get a clear picture of our cosmic microwave background radiation.
Yeah, Nassim, dude, that if you want to go find and just get, you want, like I always say it, but you want to get your mind blown. Look at his work. Like,
yeah.
I'd love to talk to that guy. I'd fucking pay to get that guy on. I don't know what I would say to him, but
eventually will. I mean, and I'm part of some of his groups, and I'm friends with some of his friends, and it just keeps going that way. It's just networking and networking.
I'm gonna be talking to. We're gonna get a guy on that. He was on his show a little bit ago,
but we've got to so many things, and then finding out that I was watching the Rogue Valley Physics Conference years ago, and he starts off like from a dot, a line, a square, a cube, then a tesseract, and I mean, so he starts off from the elementary stuff and goes up and up. So he's a great teacher, and I think that's why I didn't ever have any intentions of teaching in school, but I changed from computer science to education, not to archaeology or anything else.
Yeah.
But never had any intention, never knew why I wanted to take education, but it taught, it teaches you how tests are written and how the brain actually learns. And then I found out things like the same place Nassim who had already had kind of a science background like me, had his kind of awakening, and that's when everything just opened up and he got understanding. Literally standing on the same place. I went to Chichen Itza back in like 1995 or 96 when you could still climb up on the pyramids.
Oh, they'd let you go on? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And there was a group just like when he was there. Blew my mind to hear the story because there was a group on top that was all up there meditating. And he was just walking up there and
oh, I think I heard this. Yeah, where he was. That's yeah. I was trying to. That's what got me going, man, because he had no clue what was going on, and yeah.
But 20 years later, I mean, literally 25 years later after I'm there, if it was 1997 or something, no, it was 1999. It was 97 or 99, but I was there and and the same thing happened to me. I found out that where he had his awakening and this big thing that changed his life was the same exact place I was. I climbed the thing, everybody's sitting in front of the door where the temple area is at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
And just to the left of the door, he just kind of stood off to the side. Well, that's where I just kind of went up to the side because I was alone. I wasn't with the group. And so I just kind of went over there with him and sat down. And then I closed my eyes and, I could hear this hum and feel it and see people walking up the stairs into the temple. And then I realized somebody looked at me. Like, I was like, can he see me? And it kind of freaked me out. And I opened my eyes. I was like, I'd never been into anything like that. But right here in the 9 waves of creation, shows you the old cosmic background radiation. I don't know if you can put me on the big screen or not, but that's the old one. And the new one shows the tortal shape and the tortal motion of the universe. It's got a center, and Thoth talks about the hounds of the barrier and these columns around the outside and Emerald Tablets number 8. So even Thoth was talking about it, but we live in a very finite universe. But the news finds out that our universe is not infinite. It actually has a beginning and an end, and there's probably many more like it because there's little cells that are like this that are invisible, that are all around us, that have the same shape and the same motion, but that's not news. But the FBI director stepping down reported for the 900th time today is news.
Yes.
I mean,
is that in the memo? I don't know.
I mean, we're talking about universal knowledge. We do not live in an infinite universe. We found the edge of the universe. We found the shape of the universe. That's a pretty big damn news report in my eyes.
Yeah.
And all we hear is,
well, are you talking about the
Department of Justice forgave them before they ever investigated it and blah, 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 blah.
Are you basing that on the Kobe satellite readings?
That was on.
Knowing the size and it's finite. I mean, the Kobe background satellite, I forget which. Oh, it's Kobe that's doing the gathering, right, of the background radiation. That can only detect radiation so far.
Yeah.
It can't see beyond a certain point. So to say it's finite is impossible.
It's a WM map, but it's like
the
study's being done and it has a list of all the different ones that are doing it. But a lot of our telescopes and even private ones that we generally don't hear about are getting further and further out in the universe.
Lucy.
As our technology gets better, we've been able to see further and further. That's why it shows like it has a time frame. And over here on the other page, you can't see it. It shows the exact satellites that are being used.
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar with them. I'm just saying, if there were, let's put it this way: if this universe was finite, it would have an enclosure, and that would show up on the.
Well, the problem is
on the radar or whatever the hell.
The problem is this fractal toroidal motion. The outside of it, it's kind of like gravitational lensing. When you see like a star or something, and there is something like Jupiter or gravity well in between, well, you see behind it, you see that star stretch or go around something. Well, it's actually way behind it, and
it depends on how close it is to the lensing effect, because things you could see stars behind the sun during eclipse. It's just the light bends; it doesn't actually stretch the.
Yeah, it goes around it.
Star goes around it.
But now we've got multiple sources, and some of the best sources is to go places like Denmark or places that aren't part of the United States and go see what some of them say and see what some of their satellites that they've sent off and see what people that they say are our enemies, the Chinese and others, are getting with our, shooting off and seeing what our background is. But I have a thing that shows, 1958, 1962, 1968, 1975, all the way up to 2017, showing what each year, because see, we used to see little holes in our cosmic microwave background radiation, and now now just think about it, we had that static view around us. Well, even though each one of those images is the same size, we're seeing further and further, even though they're all the same size in each one of them. So as we see to that edge, we got an image of those opal voids going around the outside, and in the middle, just like a galaxy, just like super clusters of galaxies, just like atoms that have particles going around them, you have the same shape from as far down as you look to as far up as you can look. But the only thing you can assume is that it has the same size. I mean, it has the same shape and has the same size as everything, because everything we've seen so far has that motion. When you have you start a fire inside a box, you cut a hole in the side, you hit the back of it, you're not going to get a ball come out. You get a smoke ring spinning in that toroidal motion. And everything in our universe has that background shape that everything is basically painted on, our matrix or whatever you want to call it, supersymmetry.
Yeah.
And then everything moves in this naturally in this toroidal motion. And it just shows that our universe, it isn't random and chaotic. It's not all expanding from one point. We have some things that are moving into each other and some that are moving out. But now we're starting to see we've had enough time, even though it's a short amount of time, we've seen that everything is not moving away from us. We're just in a part.
It's just that loop. It's that fucking loop, man.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything's moved just enough to where we've seen the galaxy shift just enough to where everything's not moving away. Some things are in a red shift. Some things are in a blue shift, because nothing's moving and everything's moving inside of that. It depends on where you're at. That's like speed. Speed is relative to where you're at. If you're moving across the earth at 10,000 miles an hour, well, maybe you're sitting still and the earth's moving backward at 10,000 miles an hour. Hey, there's Daryl coming in from New York. I don't know where this chat's coming from.
Yeah, someone's got some music on. Yeah, there. You have to mute your thing.
I can hear
unless you want to say something.
Are you host, James?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I can hear, but I think
no, I can't pin him. Yeah,
I could hear, but
it sounds better now. It's just not echoing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
crazy, and even the 9 pagodas that are stepped up, and all this information, it's by Dr. Carl Kalaman. If you go to just Kalaman.com, I mean, it shows the links between all of it, the pagodas, have 9 steps on them. The pyramid even at Chichen Itza has 9 steps, and the temple sitting on top of it with the 10, and just that common number through everything. And you know, you've got the number 9 with the 36, the temple sitting on top, 37, the fingerprint of God. There's Daryl. Hey, Paris.
Hey there. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Before we could hear chat. There's a society member.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Sorry, I'm late. I had so many computer problems.
Yeah, she's up in New York.
Oh, I hear that.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties. That's half my game here.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say anything till I hear what I have to catch up. So sorry.
We're talking about chaos and order out of chaos and chaos out of order. But yeah, I showed them the Chichen Itza picture and just these new images that don't make the news. But I'm sorry, Tron being under Angkor Wat is news. Twitter is not, unless that's what we're talking about. But there's places like I showed you in Indonesia you never hear about, and Australia is kept out of our education. But you find Ganesh, and I've dated this to about 26,000 years old, and these pyramids about twice the age, and it's clearly the Ganesh creature. I have it next to him. That's in Indonesia, and so it was an influence on that culture. And then the Temple of Jars in Laos, right next to my AOD furnace at Komatsu Corporation, and they had tons of these lined up in a row. And if you were separating metal from stone, you would have not only a construction site to build a large megalith, you would also have all the metals that were taken from the process, the byproducts from it. Yeah, you would have enough metals to make enough swords for an army. Right. And but all these things, I mean, unless you do a show or something, we don't see. We got these guys like Jerry.
That's why I just wanted. Yeah, that's exactly why I want you to come on, man. And just
we got these guys right here.
Yeah,
yeah. This is the logic behind the education system and what puts everything in this time frame. Well, now we've discovered what's on the surface, and now 99% of what we're finding is out of place artifacts. Yeah. So we are, I totally believe we're in a year and that everything is going to change. And now we've become, the Independent Research Society has become somewhat of the MUFON of archaeology, and we're getting, people are starting to send pictures. There's that pyramid in Antarctica during the little Buzz Aldrin trip, pointing out of his airplane, taking a picture. But in
what was that? Let's show that one again. I don't think pyramid in Antarctica. That one.
Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch.
Yeah, remember he allegedly sent some crazy text out, and he had a boogie because he was having a heart attack.
That's right.
But these guys, Research Society member, have been camping at the same place and I'll just say it's in Southern Europe. I can't tell anybody where it's at yet. But these are approximately the size of the pyramid stones.
Are they stone blocks?
Huge, yeah. And when they've been camping here, they have to hike miles to here. It's up in the mountains in Europe, and a storm blew through, knocked all these trees over, knocked all this surface area off, and exposed these. And there's an area nearby that shows a palace that is above ground, but vines and everything have grown over it, and they didn't even realize they're camping right on top of a city. and a pyramid, and just the imaging that's coming back. It's mind blowing. It's just like, how can history stay the same, and none of this be news, you know? So what we're doing, what you're doing right now, what I'm doing means nothing. And everybody's talking about Guatemala. Here's the metropolis that was found in Guatemala, and you can see that it's got pyramids, and it just, this doesn't look like your typical, like, I mean, this looks like something you would see in the Alps or somewhere, but there always seems to be a pyramid there, and people build around utilities. But this shows that there's still, I think whenever they do another LIDAR, and they might already have it, showing a depth below this, that this is a city built over another one that's already there. Even now, we build
like that Puma, was it that Puma, like there's the rings layers over and over and over, just like, yeah, like the pyramids, like new people came in, started building on top of old ones, they started, you know, like, this one's mine, they put their name on it.
Yeah, you know? And they're still doing it. I mean, I believe that right now, other than the coastal part, like I showed you at Angkor Wat, if you get on Google Earth, you can see that the coastline has been, you can see where the coastline was before the ice cap melted.
Yeah.
And it's a completely different Earth, and there's just no denying it. But it really is starting to look more like Star Wars the more images we get, than it is, you know, looking like Clan of the Cave Bear or whatever.
What do you think of, okay, like, you know, I don't know, I'm kind of, well, if you know me, and you know, I'm into the whole electric universe kind of theory. I mean, I'm into everything, but that's the one that makes the most sense to me. And that, like, the whole 4-planet arrangement where we were actually closer to Saturn, and then,
well, I think there was a collision that caused.
Well, they were pulling apart. They were over something. It has to do with magnetism, because it's all electrically charged. So if our planets are, you know how you take magnets and you push them together and there's that force. Well, I think something was going on as we're pulling away. Then it starts ripping apart Mars, because you have what was the sun?
Yeah.
Does it go Saturn, Venus, Mars, Earth, you know, and as that whole black hole sun, the black sun thing, you know, like, so everything's pulling apart, rips apart Mars. The whole, our world, our Earth, is going in chaos at that point in time, you know, like, everything's changing. And then, yeah, maybe as it's moving out, it gets nailed by a fucking asteroid, you know, like, and civilizations change over time, you know, like,
that would knock us off. I mean, that would knock us off on our tilt.
And I think, like, what you were saying, though, like, what I'm saying too is, okay, so there was civilization when these 4 planets were aligned at one point in time. So it's getting pulled apart, and all across the world, they're depicting in cave art and drawings of everything of electrically charged plasma drawings on fucking cave art of they look like stick men and stuff, you know. If you go to, like, thunderbolts.info, you can find all this information, and in everything you've seen. And if you're watching Ancient Aliens and you see the little alien look, like these figures, like the Nazca line looking thing, you know, these are all electrically charged drawings that they were seeing. But this, I mean, I guess everything we say has to be allegedly, I guess. I don't know what the fuck, you know, what the fuck do we know?
Look at India. Look at India. Look at the people in the Americas. Look at each symbol for each society and put it on a timeline. Line up those symbols and put it on a timeline. As time goes by, all of these civilizations had a 4-pointed symbol, whatever it was, being a star or whatever.
Cross or whatever, yeah.
Then 5, and has the tongue sticking out. And then you have a 7-pointed time. And over time, it's just not a coincidence that over time, every single culture's symbol, even like Kali with his tongue sticking out at the same time as in South America, they have, like on the Aztec or the Mayan calendar, you see the tongue sticking out in the same exact points. And I believe it's what they were seeing in the sky. And you pull planets closer together, and also there's charges that do go through the solar system and all through space. We see it all the time. We kind of hope nothing happen right now.
So what do you think though? Like, so if we spread out, so over this, whatever, that vast amount of time, and then where the hell does the moon come from? That's what kind of blows my mind. I don't know. Like,
I think that a lot of people are saying it's artificial,
right?
But
it was towed in or whatever, right? Yeah.
If you have the Earth standing straight up and you do have an impact event, it's the Younger Dryas event.
Yes.
And if you have an impact event, you're knocking the lighter materials into the Earth. This could also cause the asteroid belt. But if you had a planet that was bigger, closer to Jupiter size, a little smaller, and you had a full impact, the lighter materials would be blown into a ring and what's called overspin in orbital dynamics. You can look in space, and just like whenever a black hole that we see or an astrophysical jet starts pulling apart a star, it pulls it apart in a disc shape. It starts spinning it, and it starts turning it into a disc shape and sucking it up in one tube. And it's just the motion and the dynamics of the physics of our universe. But I think we have the same thing with the moon. You have Antarctica sitting where Australia basically is, and then you have the North American ice cap.
It's the magnet.
When you have an impact event, now the Earth is tilting.
Yeah.
Australia, which is Antarctica, instantly goes into that 24-hour darkness phase, which we know how fast on the moon it goes from a temperature of anywhere when the sun's visible to when it's not, especially out of the atmosphere. It goes from very hot to down below zero, and that would cause that freeze in Antarctica very quickly. But it would also cause, if it put the North American ice cap 23 hours, say like Alaska, if it put North America in the sun 23 hours a day, but it put Antarctica in the dark 23 hours a day, you would have melting here and you would have freezing here. But now you have a ring around the planet because the heavier materials are going to come together faster. The denser materials are going to go toward the center. Now, regolith, which is the lightest material, is sitting in a ring around the Earth, and everything starts binding together until you have almost asteroids like Saturn spinning in a ring around the Earth. Well, eventually you've got two objects, and they're both going counterclockwise. Well, eventually you're going to have a slow speed collision. And as you do, the back object is going to be, if it was a hard hit, it would all be volcanic and it would all be even. But a slow speed impact would absorb the smaller moon or the back one into the front one.
Wow.
And see, that's like holding, if you had a tennis ball on a string, spinning it around, the heaviest part's going to be on the outside. And that's why the moon faces us all the time. And I think that's the orbital dynamics of it. And all of that fits together scientifically, not listening to any story or anything before that.
Yeah, it's just
if
data,
you look at the asteroid belt, if you look at the asteroid belt, if you look at the speed that Antarctica froze, if you look at the speed that the North American ice cap melted at. And all of those facts, that's when you get a theory. Other people just say, I have a theory of blah, and it's just some crap that comes out of their head. No, that is a thought that could be formed into a hypothesis. A hypothesis is you've got scientific information, and that's before I know that Antarctica froze fast. I know the ice cap melted fast, and we had a fast climate change. And I know that the moon is made up of lighter materials. Well, now you have those facts, and now you form a hypothesis. And then when you get then when you study it and find facts like the moon is always facing us, and the back part of the moon, the crust is 6 times as thick and 6 times as dense on the back side. So that always keeps it away from us. Now you have data that forms a theory. That's a theory, not this crap where they have a theory contest and go, I went to Yale and I went to Harvard and, and go on Ancient Aliens and just say whatever. I have a theory. Ancient Alien theories, what, that's just horseshit. It's just, it really is. Ancient Alien theorists believe that, or theorize. No, you don't theorize.
Then we cut the commercial. And we come back with the truth.
Well, it's not a theory. It's just an idea, and it's a possibility. It's called imagination.
But yeah, when that show first started, I think it got a lot of people just at least like, wow. But then, we kind of knew this stuff before that show ever started, but
it
to an extent, but it did
open
other ideas. And that's what's kind of weird too. You're kind of driven down different avenues, but that's why you got to